Hello everyone, a very warm welcome to you all to this edition of The Inside. I am Bablet Jonathan. Another atrocity has been recorded within the context of the more than 8-year-long armed conflict raging in the northwest and southwest regions of the Republic of Cameroon. 6 persons, 6 young persons killed in Pinyin in the northwest region by armed men dressed in military uniform. The armed men stormed a local drinking spot in Mamben neighborhood on the night of Sunday, 23rd February 2025 and gunned down the 6 young men. And after the incident, the traditional ruler of Pinyin in the Santa subdivision northwest region of Cameroon, His Royal Majesty Kenneth Asobo III, has exalted his subjects to remain united and to continue working for a better future. We are looking at the situation on ground, and of course we are looking at all efforts that are being made to restore peace and normalcy in the crisis-stricken, predominantly English-speaking regions of the country, and provide lasting solutions to the decade-old Anglophone problem. Recently, the coalition of Cameroon Federalist groups and activists, CCFGA, got into an agreement with other groups, notably groups in connection to the Anglophone crisis, to agree on a way forward, on a way out of the impasse in the 2 English-speaking regions of the country. And we are looking at the federal option in this edition of The Insight, plus issues concerning the forthcoming presidential election. There have been cries, notably from the opposition, over what is qualified as pre-election fraud maneuvers, allegedly masterminded by the elections organizing body, Elections Cameroon. The Cameroon People's Democratic Movement, CPDM, which is the ruling party in Cameroon, the administration, and even the police is mentioned, notably in a statement released recently by the national president of the Cameroon Renaissance Movement, CRM political party, Professor Maurice Kamto. And the CCFGA has written an open letter to the elections organizing body, Elections Cameroon, over what it qualifies as the marginalization of Anglophones, even in the electoral process. Meet our guest in some few seconds. Our guest in this edition of the program is Michael Takie. He's a Federalist, chairperson of the coalition of Cameroon Federalist groups and activists, CCFGA, and he's joining us from London in the United Kingdom. Welcome to the program.
Thank you, Mr. Jonathan Babila. It's always a pleasure being with you, and also I would like to say good day to your fellow listeners. Thank you for having me.
Let's start by having your comments on this latest incident recorded in the crisis-stricken northwest and southwest regions of the country within the context of the more than 8-year-long armed conflict raging there. 6 young persons killed by armed men dressed in military uniform in Pinyin, the Santa subdivision in the northwest region.
Yes, Jonathan, thank you very much once again. I think every single life lost is a tragedy. Unfortunately, it's almost being normalized, especially within the north and southwest regions. Lives are being lost, even the ones that we don't even know about. A lot of atrocities are being committed. And this is as a result of a war. Even though the government would say there's no war, or they would say they are putting things in control, or they've put everything in control. This is not necessarily true. Otherwise, such news would not be coming up. So it's getting out of hand, and I think it's a tragedy that we are losing loved ones, especially young people, through a fight which is unfounded to me. And from the Federalist perspective, And unfortunately, we cannot really pinpoint exactly who is behind all these atrocities. Some say is men dressed in military attire and or whatnot. And unfortunately, we have a situation where the level of chaos is beyond manageable. And again, like I said, the government will always tell you that everything is in control. This is not true. And we strongly ask the government to investigate these atrocities. And yes, if they want to prove that they are in control, let them bring the perpetrators into book. Let them bring them into justice. So thank you.
So, what is your reading of this incident at this point in time, when we have almost everyone saying that there is an improvement in the situation on the ground compared to previous years, 2017, 2018, 2019, and even up to 2020. What is your reading of this incident coming at this point in time?
I think those who are saying that it's improving, they don't just understand. The reason why they think it's improving is because they have, I would say, stopped investigating these crimes. Many people, especially in the world today, some groups consider it as a forgotten war, or a war that has been turned a blind eye on, which is absolutely true. These atrocities since 2016 are going on, and you cannot quantify the seriousness based on the number of deaths. No, a single life lost is always as important and as meaningful, as significant as more than one. So we cannot, because of the number of incidences that happen, say, oh yeah, it's getting better. It is not. Rather, that is a picture the government gives you. And on the other hand, when you want to hold the government on account, they would say, oh, there is the level of insecurity is hindering them from carrying out activities in these areas. So how do you negotiate the two? The government would say, oh, everything is in control. And then when you start asking them to take responsibility of these areas, they will start telling you that, oh, the level of insecurity there hinders them from carrying out their activities. The local people, if you meet them, they will tell you exactly what I'm saying, that things are not improving. There is no security, there is no guarantee that you would wake up the next day, or somebody knocks at your door. There's no guarantee that you open that door, you would meet a friendly face. So how do you come to say things are better? They are not. They've just merely metamorphosized from one form of violence to another. Now it's targeted killing, but before it used to be sometimes, I would say, mass killing, but now it's targeted. Sometimes at this moment, they organize one or two persons, and then they target you and they kill you in the street, and then they rob you or they kill you or whatever. So it's not improved.
No, there is some kind of confusion on the ground, and it is increasingly becoming difficult to know who is doing what. The incident recorded in Pinyin, we're not talking about armed men. We're talking about armed men dressed in military uniform. And it is difficult to know who committed the act until an investigation is carried out, a proper investigation for the perpetrators to be clearly identified. In the meantime, the President of the Republic is persisting in the military perspective of solving the Anglophone conflict. In his message to young people on the 10th of February 2025, he said that after calling on those who are still carrying guns and fighting in the bush to drop their guns, he said that those who will refuse to do that would have an unpleasant fate, pointing to continuous military action, military crackdown, the soldiers tracking down and killing separatist fighters. What's your perspective on this?
I think the government got it wrong. The government got it absolutely wrong. The government got it extremely wrong, and I would say the separatists also got it wrong. All right? The problem we have in Cameroon is not it's not a problem that needs a violent solution. The government is supposed to be the one to protect the people. Yet they send the military against the very people that they are supposed to protect. Right? The military, the main reason why governments employ military is to combat against international enemy. You cannot send your own soldiers to fight against your own people. We have the police. If it is a fully functioning system, the judiciary will be there to hold people into account. On the other hand, the Federalists, the independentists, or they call them the separatists, they also got it wrong, because you cannot defeat an army, you cannot defeat an organized army in such a manner. All right? And to add a little bit more, Cameroon as a country, as a state, cannot be defeated by a faction of armed groups. However, even the strongest government in the world can be defeated by a national civil internal unrest. No matter how strong a government is, evidence is proven that they can be brought down by a civil unrest. Right? So this is something which the government, as I say now, got it completely wrong. They can never win this. Nobody's winning. All right? You cannot be killing people and think you're winning. You never win by killing someone. So the government, from the perspective of the coalition of Cameroon Federalist groups and activists, we condemn the actions of the government. We also condemn the actions of those who pick arms. Some of them are not even, I would say, separatist fighters. They're just armed groups. So you see that when you have a situation where there is chaos, you hardly know who is who. You can even have people mask themselves. Even your own friends can mask themselves and come against you. You would not be able to recognize them. And to make matters worse, a government that is so disorganized within and amongst themselves, they cannot even investigate some of these crimes. Because either they investigate, they themselves, they cause a lot of, I would say, they cause a lot of atrocities, either knowingly or unknowingly. So when you take the soldiers from the barracks to come and fight the very people that they protect, I think this is something that is shameful. You don't recruit soldiers to come and fight against the citizens, the civilians. Soldiers, you recruit them to defend the country internationally against any international attacker. So it was a very wrong move that the government of Cameroon made. And even though they were the one who started, attacking the very people that they are supposed to protect, unfortunately, the separatists too retaliated, which kind of spiraled the whole situation since from 2017 to today, and nobody's winning. So thank you.
Okay. Recently, CCFGA got into an agreement, a memorandum of understanding with other groups. I think about 3 other groups. Can you tell us the purpose of this agreement?
Yes, thank you very much. This is a very, this question is very important, both to our listeners. The coalition of Cameroon Federalist groups and activists was approached by the Southern Cameroons Alliance. Southern Cameroons Alliance is a group or a coalition of separatist group, or I would say independentists. So they came together and formed the Southern Cameroons Alliance. And they invited the coalition of Cameroon Federalist groups and activists to take part in a conversation that led to the signing of the Memorandum of Understanding. it is based on the realization that we both have the same issue. They are fighting the same, I'll put in quote, enemy as us, as a Federalist activist. So we through the Memorandum of Understanding, and after a couple of days of working together, we realized and accepted that, yes, we may have different destinations, but we are going towards the same direction. And when I mean different destinations, they believe, the independentists believe, that the north and southwest regions of Cameroon should be independent of the rest of the country, while the Federalists, including Coalition of Cameroon Federalist groups and activists, believe that what our people need, if properly, I would say if properly packaged, would be enough in a federal system of government. And as we're going to be discussing about federalism and what that means, it is important to note that we believe that there is nothing that would make us change our position. We know, we have heard, something we Federalists are just transitioning from the position to become independentists. That is absolutely false. There is absolutely no position that we are transiting or we want federalism so that in the end we will go to independence. No. So the coalition of Cameroon Federalist groups and activists believe in one nation federated, and the independentists, they have their own goals. But we know that the common enemy, we have common interest, all of us. And our problem, our common interest is the freedom and the complete, I would say, autonomy for our people. And when I mean our people, the people of North and Southwest regions. But from the Federalist perspective, we also understand, and we're working with our Francophone brothers and sisters. If they think this is, we want them to understand federalism has nothing to do with separation of the country. So we are working with the separatists, I beg your pardon, with the independentists. I would like to put it that way, rather than the separatists, the independentists, towards, I would say, liberating our people. Thank you.
What do you put in liberating our people? Liberating our people from what?
Yes, thank you very much. Now, when we say liberating our people, we want them to be free of the system that has actually, I would say, captured everyone in one bundle. The nation of Cameroon does not really give enough freedom to the people. For example, there's no freedom of protest in Cameroon right now. And I'm sure if I were talking, if I was in Cameroon now, somebody will be ready to question me. Not even questioning me. They will not even question me. I may even be, detained for my own view or my own opinion. So freeing people means giving them that autonomy to be able to express themselves freely, to be able to vote or elect whoever they want to govern them. But today in Cameroon, we have a decentralized state that is focused on appointing whoever looks after the people. Whether they like it or not, it's like forced onto them. So we are looking at a system where people will be free, people will be able to express themselves, not only by murmuring behind, but also by being able to talk in the public.
Now, a section of the agreement reads, the partnership respects ideological differences while fostering a common vision It establishes a framework for dialogue, consensus building, and a united international engagement to seek a genuine and lasting solution to the conflict. When you talk about respecting ideological differences, and then you talk about a common vision, how do you intend to reach that common vision while respecting ideological differences? We know that some of the groups are standing for outright independence for former British Southern Cameroons and nothing else. And CCFGA is standing for federation, a return to the federal system in the nation, Cameroon.
Thank you very much. I think now that this is the thing. The independentists, they think the only way they can live in Cameroon is by having their own independent state. Their own opinion. That is the ideological opinion. From the Federalist perspective, we tell them, okay, fine, if that is what you want, it's okay. But we want federal system of government. Now somebody would say, oh, these are two antagonistic positions. How can you work together? We can. Why are these people looking for independence? Why are they advocating for total independence? It is for the people, the civil, the local people, community. It is for our community. Why are the Federalists advocating for federation? They are doing so on behalf of the same community that the independentists are advocating for independence for. Whichever way you look at it, Federalists believe strongly that while their own ideologies stay with them, they also have to understand from our own perspective, we have a belief that the best system that would work for us will be federalism. We are fighting for federalism via a non-violence method, which we advocate strongly that using the people's power, this is how we're going to attain our federalism. And we believe that whatever the independentists are looking for, to us, we are satisfied that everything that is there is found in a true federal system of government. Take, for example, we have in the UK here, the government in Downing Street, the parliament has people from Scotland. Excuse me. The Scottish, they always want, a couple of years ago, they had a referendum where they were advocating to separate their parliament completely, to have the Scottish independence. That doesn't stop them from working with the central government in London here. They have their opinion. It's some of them believe that they want a separate independent Scotland. Inside that very Scotland, there are people who say, no, we don't need independent Scotland. After all, this is what we need from the central government. That is exactly what our Memorandum of Understanding is seeking. We are seeking a federal system that would satisfy every single Southern or former Southern Cameroonian. The independentists, on the other hand, they want independence for everybody in the former Southern Cameroon, which is something that with us, the Federalists, it's not popular. However, we know and agree that these ideological differences can stay in one roof. Like the case I just mentioned, the Scottish case. They can stay in the same, can still harbor in the same one roof, under the same roof, while each person understandably advocate for their own position.
All right, Michael Takie, I want us to go to the newsstands right now, and we are taking a look at what the newspapers reported this week. And when we come back, you'll tell us more about the federal option that the CCFGA and other entities like the Social Democratic Front, SDF political party, have been preaching for several years now. Press view. Now we begin the press review with the National Post, and the National Post reports the killing of 6 persons in Pinyin in the Mezam Division, northwest region of the country. The median newspaper, Broken Promises, Development Neglect by Government, Agbobala laments complacency, greed of Anglophone political elite. The civil society leader, Barrister Agbobala, highlighting what he qualifies as complacency and greed of Anglophone political elite in the problems in the northwest and southwest regions of Cameroon. And the Horizon newspaper reports that popular protest is proposed as key to liberate Cameroon from the bad situation in which it finds itself today, as courts deliberate lack of jurisdiction over pre-electoral dispute. Popular protest is proposed as key to liberate Cameroon. The Herald Tribune also highlights statements from Barrister Agbo Bala, founder and chairperson of the Center for Human Rights and Democracy in Africa, Chad. Agbo Bala urges traditional rulers to quit politics, and he said this after the traditional leaders of the southwest region of the country, under the umbrella of the Southwest Chiefs Conference, called on the President of the Republic, Paul Biya, to launch his campaign for the forthcoming presidential election in the southwest region of the country, and he is telling the traditional authorities to quit politics. Upcoming presidential election, Royal Fathers Crusade launch of Biya's campaign in the southwest region. The Chronicle Times highlights the call from the traditional leaders of the southwest region on the President of the Republic, asking him to launch his campaign in the southwest region. Newswatch: Mba Acha urges Anglophone crisis IDPs to be peace ambassadors. Minister Mba Acha Rose is reported in Newswatch to have urged internally displaced persons forced out of their homes by the conflict, the violence in the northwest and southwest regions of the country to Garwa in the north region of the country to be peace ambassadors. Now, that is what came from the Supreme State Audit. Minister Mba Acha Rose during her visit to the locality of Garwa, to the capital of the north region of the country. Cameroon Tribune now indicates or raises concerns about fake news in connection to the electoral process, and the paper says that ahead of the presidential election, Cameroonians have to pay attention, have to be careful with fake news. Cameroon echoes Mahimen chieftaincy dispute goes chaotic as chief priest accused of desecrating tradition. The paper notably reports the chieftaincy conflict in Mahimen in the southwest regions of the country, indicating that the situation is worsening as a result of what is qualified as desecration of tradition by the chief priest of the village. Municipal updates at audience with Prime Minister Chief Dr. Joseph Jangote. UN pledges more support for Northwest and Southwest reconstruction. And another issue of municipal updates reports that in connection to the designation of Iyole Molinge as Bonganjo Wonjo chiefs, community leaders have petitioned the Minister of Territorial Administration to annul the prefectural order. And another issue of Cameroon Tribune highlights the reconstruction of the far north region of the country and says that the first steps are already visible. The fruits of the first steps of reconstruction in the crisis-stricken region are already visible. The Post newspaper, Cameroon's abusive coach firings since 2011 cost taxpayers francs CFA 2.3 billion. And the paper goes further to indicate how Samuel Eto'o, president of the Cameroon Football Federation, humiliated sports minister for opposing Conceição's contract termination, and prime minister foresaw trouble, recommended dialogue, but was ignored. Another issue of municipal updates at Yaoundé Economic Confab. PM salutes Tony Elumelu's economic ingenuity. Prime Minister Chief Dr. Joseph Diangote congratulating the Nigerian businessman, Africa's economic giant, Tony Elumelu, for his ingenuity. Now, another issue of the Guardian Post newspaper, Valentine Nkwine. How art the mighty fallen? The Victoria United president has been banned from football-related activities, also fined 10 million francs CFA for issuing threat to referees. And we wrap up with The Dawn. The paper is highlighting the winners of the 2025 edition of the Mount Cameroon Race of Hope. And the paper reports that the 2025 edition of the Mount Cameroon Race of Hope was nothing short of thrilling, bringing surprises, excitement, and intense competition. Thank you for staying with us. We are still with our guest, Michael Takie, chairperson of the Coalition of Cameroon Federalist Groups and Activists, CCFGA, joining us from London, United Kingdom. Michael, tell us more about this federal option, which you have been preaching for several years now.
Yes, Babila, thank you very much for this question again. This is I would say one of the best part of this our discussion this afternoon. Federalist option. It sounds, as I said before, to most of our Francophone brothers, or some of our Francophone brothers, they think it's a stepping stone towards, I would say, towards a separation. It's absolutely not. Federalism is a system of government where government is shared, or governance is shared between the government, or the local government and the people, and also the national government.
One second, so please. If you can hear me, you need to shift backward a little bit. So just maintain that position. Yeah. Okay, go ahead, please.
As I was saying, federalism is a system of government that involves sharing of power. It's the best kind, I would say, of decentralization. Let me use that word because that's a word that is common with our people in Cameroon, because the government or the regime is using the word decentralization. That is not the same thing. The government of Cameroon is using a unitary decentralization, which is the same unitary state or unitary system. But federalism is completely the opposite of that. It gives the maximum autonomy to the people. It gives the people a voice. It gives the people that ability to involve or to be involved in the way their system or the way their activities are run. It brings power more to the people. It shares power with the people, as opposed to decentralization or a unitary state where the government has all the power. The central government has, the police have, the army have everything. But with federalism, it is the best, most contemporary kind of government that I would say any civilized nation needs to exhibit. There are some countries that don't necessarily, I would say, they practice federalism, but don't really, they don't practice, they preach federalism, but don't necessarily practice federalism. There are a few of them, even in Africa. But what I'm here today to tell our listeners, especially Cameroonians in general, is the fact that federalism is the best system of government. I would say after this 42 years plus that we've been under the shackle, under the bondage of this regime, federalism is a breath of fresh air. It gives you the power to elect and vote your own leaders. You vote your governors, you vote for your divisional officers, just the same way you vote for your mayors. So it devolves its power right down to the grassroots. That is what federalism is. It is not a system of government as we have today, where I would say somebody will leave my village and go right to Yaoundé only to go and chase their pension, for example. That is not the case. With federalism, you stay right where you are. Services are brought right where you are. You are involved in the decision making in whatever activities are going on within your local area. The people have a lot of accountability. You hold everyone into account. It avoids tyranny, where you have, a leader who would have everything in their hand. Federalism says, no, you have your own level of operation, and then the other person has their own level of operation. If you have, for example, the Coalition of Cameroon Federalist Groups and Activists, we already exhibit a system of federation within our federalist activities, whereby everything is devolved to every single member within the federalist institution.
Now, do you think a federalism
system of government is a system of government that gives power more, or shares power, not necessarily giving, but sharing power between the national, the local, and the people.
Right. Do you think that
say as to how they are being governed or run?
Right. So, do you think that a return to the federal system of government will put an end to the killings, destruction, other atrocities going on, the violence, will put an end to the conflict at this point? Do you think if the President of the Republic were to come out today and make a speech and say, okay, we are returning to the federal system, will the guns go down?
I think without any iota of doubt, if the government of Cameroon were to call the English-speaking regions, I would say call the North and Southwest region into a talk and say, here is federalism, I can guarantee you almost immediately, if it is true federalism, the conflict will end immediately. It will end. In federalism, and it will not only end it there. I think to an extent, if a true federal system is given or is portioned for the North and Southwest region, I can certainly say even the whole idea about, I would say, independence would struggle to be popular. So even since 2016, if you remember, when this conflict started, when the consortium of which was being chaired by
Barrister
Bala, yes, Barrister Bobala at the time, that was one of the key discussions that was on the table. If it was given at that time, we would not be here. I can guarantee you that 100% we would not be here. And when I mean given, I mean true federation in good faith. we would not be here. True federation with a federal constitution, or a true federation that respects constitutional democracy, we would not be here. I can guarantee you that 100%.
Now, what is CCFGA proposing? A return to the initial federal structure that was dissolved, two-state federation. Some other persons have been talking about 10-state federation and things like that. What is CCFGA proposing?
Thank you very much. That is a question that is under discussion and is always evolving and is going on within the Federalist. Now, inside our Federalist discussions, and this is one of the beauties of federalism, or the coalition of Cameroon Federalist groups and activists, every single individual, every single member has a voice. You have a voice, and that voice must be democratically listened to. Every single person, regardless of your position in the society, you have a voice. We listen to all these voices. We go even into ballots, in some cases, to make sure the voices are free and fairly represented. There is this conversation. Some are asking, or some support a 10-state, some even go as far as saying 4 states. But the core values that CCFGA puts forward is that we would rather prefer a federal system that respects the 1961 to 1972 agreement. The two Cameroons came together. Those are the two core values. We would respect, or we would almost straightforward, I want to say that federation is the one which we would prefer. And it doesn't mean, when I say so, it doesn't mean that discussions cannot go on. We continue discussions and until everybody is absolutely satisfied. And I'm not saying a group of people sit and choose or decide what kind of federation it is. No. And that is the beauty with us, is that we are trying to listen to every single voice. But we all know, all Cameroonians understand absolutely clear that historically, there are two Cameroons that came together. We cannot hide this fact. Even if we did not exhibit the full benefit of a federal system, that was the intention from the start. And that is what CCFJ is saying, regardless of the various opinions, let us revisit our history, and then we consider the contemporary nature of the country. There we would find a very clear direction to go. But I think, personally, and as the chairperson of the coalition of Cameroon Federalist groups and activists, Cameroonians should understand that federation has nothing to do with separation. That's the first thing. And then secondly, Cameroonians should know, I think by now, through the education that has come as a result of the present conflict, a lot of our brothers and sisters of the Francophone origin have actually understood where the Anglophones are coming from. That there were two Cameroons that came together. Let's revisit that agreement. If there are any amendments, let us start from there. That is where we talk about the root cause of the crisis. So in terms of federal state, if the government was actually smart enough, or I would say any government that comes in 2025, if they are smart enough, they should not be afraid to talk about federation as a means to completely, I would say completely, almost instantly solve the Anglophone question, because that is where everything started. If they were to go and visit the root cause, these people in good faith, if they were to visit the root cause in good faith, this issue will be resolved almost instantly. And without doubt, I know that it is, I would say, a very smart leader in Cameroon, a smart government, a smart president should understand that the people of Cameroon have been through a lot for the past 40-something years plus. Things have evolved. The country has evolved. People listen. People have learned. There's nothing that can be hidden anymore. People know their history. If you know your history, you will know, or say, if you know where you're coming from, that will determine where you're going to. And if you do that in good faith, success is always very, very close to you. So we are saying again, once and again, that the federal system of Cameroon that we CCFGA advocate for is the one that respects the history and the contemporary nature of our country.
And many Cameroonians are hoping that a smart leader will emerge from the 2025 presidential election who will bring about some of these changes and solve the multiple problems affecting the country from north to south, east to west. But ahead of the election, the presidential election, there have been cries, notably within the ranks of the opposition, voices raising against what the opposition politicians qualify as pre-electoral fraud maneuvers, notably by the elections organizing body Elections Cameroon. And of course, the administration is also accused, and even the police is also accused, and the CPDN, the ruling party, of masterminding these maneuvers to maintain the grip of President Paul Biya on power after more than 4 decades of leadership. And you have written a letter to the Director General of Elections, Eric Esuse, or a letter, an open letter, highlighting the marginalization of Anglophones according to the CCFGA in the electoral process. We'll talk about that after interviews of the week.
School moral erosion is a thing that we are trying to wipe out at every part of the educational cycle, right from the basic, secondary, and even the tertiary educational sector. Poor parental guidance is one of the major problems. Apart from that, we could have issues like the influence of social media and internet, the way they are being misused by our young children of today. Weak school discipline, because most of the schools are afraid of backslash from parents when they take strict disciplinary measures against their children. Apart from that, we have lack of religious and moral education among most schools around the country, especially Cameroon here, and even in other parts of the world. You see that in the past, moral education was a subject taught in schools, right from the basic, even up to the high school level, civic education. And this moral aspect were being mostly carried out by our religious leaders. We used to accept them to work in schools. And nowadays, those aspects are completely being pushed out. We equally have the influence of drugs and substance abuse. You bear with me that this is one of the major problems that most schools around the Republic are facing. The abuse of drugs by most of our kids. Lack of proper guidance and maybe guidance from teachers and even school authorities. But then as far as the education of a child is concerned, we look at the 3 pillars. We have the school, we have the children, and we have the parent. How are they working towards bringing up these children to the right path? You see that there's a failure in most of those aspects. As a school proprietor standing here, I'm sure with testimony from the public and other stakeholders and numerous awards that we have been given, testify that our measures put in place is working. And which are these measures? The first thing is that we conduct a series of counseling, guidance and counseling to our children. Let them know the importance of education. We equally try as much as possible to bring in experts who sometimes need to move from class to class, giving the importance of education to these children. Apart from that, there are other measures that I will call them proactive measures. Proactive measures here include things like creating a strong discipline in school, Strong discipline doesn't mean that we should start running behind the children with whip and so on. No, it is just to keep strong rules and regulation that bind these children, and not only putting it but reinforcing it. How do you reinforce it is another question. We now bring in the issue of so many discipline masters. Most of the structure we see in many schools around the country and in most of those in the urban town is that there are so many students in a class. So many students pay the discipline department. What do I mean? It means that the ratio of the students to the discipline masters are alarming. So what have we done here? Every corridor have what we call sector discipline master. And in this my institution here, there are 9 surveillant the sector, as we call it in French, sector discipline master, 9 of them, before we have 2 senior discipline master. Apart from that, we have a camera, what we call surveillance camera, all over the campus. Even going towards the toilet, we have camera there. This now eliminates issue of student idling.
Moral values that we used to have are decaying. There is a problem. The school environment was like a moral ground where children learned respect, they learned how to tell the truth, they were disciplined, there was love. When I say love, I mean not what the children of today think love is. But today, in our schools, you are even afraid to discipline a child because violence has taken over. The discipline masters are in panic because when you want to discipline a child, he meets you out of the gate and they can fight you. There is violence, there is drug, there is sexual immorality in schools. You look at a child who is dressing to go to school, he's like a prostitute. He or she is like a prostitute. You don't know if you are talking to a student or you are talking to a street girl. Bring up your child in the fear of the Lord, and when that child grows up, that child will never depart from it. And in our school context, bring up your children, not even in the fear and the respect of teachers. When that child grows up, respect will not depart from that child. The absence of religious studies in schools is one of the main causes. Public schools is one of the main causes of moral decadence in our schools, especially then the society. The children themselves, or our parents, the parents at home are not in partnership with the schools. We have social media that has come. There's no parental control in social media. At home, you can even control the television and your phones and all of that. But with social media, the children are exposed to all kinds of deviant behavior. The Bible said, spare the rod and spoil the child. But today is, don't touch my child. Don't use the rod on my child. We don't use the rod on children to kill them. There are many forms of correction. There are many strategies that we can use in disciplining children in school. But sometimes, the language children understand is beating. We don't beat to kill. When a child sees a whip, that child adjusts. The first thing in this school is discipline. Once a child is disciplined, all the other values will fall in place. If a child is to dress in black and a check on Monday and put on black shoes, black belt, and white socks, parents look at that as if it is very minute or they are just bothering them. It is a way of start disciplining those children at a very tender age. When they grow up, look at the way you're dressed. If you go into an office, they'll open the door to you. Enter, come in. They'll open the door for you, come in. But if you dress tattered, you go for an interview, you have failed. So we start disciplining at a very young age in this school. We discipline them. Discipline, cleanliness is to watch what? You go around the campus, you will see the children are quiet in class, they are working with their teachers. Love. With little ones to say, love your friends. Share with your friends.
This issue of moral decadence is actually a fight which is so common, especially in our school milieu, and we as educationists, we put all issues together to see how we can manage it. Our school being a nursery and a primary school, most of the characteristics are not yet shown, but for those that are shown, like children showing some signs of sex at a very young age, and we try as much as to use counseling as a major strategy to fight these issues. We do one-on-one counseling with the children, the suspected cases, and we do group counseling, in which case we invite the parents of the children concerned so that we sit and concert on as to what strategies that the parents can apply at home, while we are also applying our own strategies here in school. I had a case of a child in primary 4 whose friends complained. They came up to complain to me that this child speaks to them about sex and will tell them a number of girlfriends that he has back in the quarter, and will also show some other pupils in class that he is very much interested in them, that if he was given an opportunity to be with one of them in the room alone, he will definitely make her to feel so happy. So when this thing came to me, it was a shock, because looking at the age of the child, a child of 7 years, I didn't expect to get that, but I had to bring the child and counsel the child, first of all, to know what he knows about sex. So he revealed to me that he had friends. He had a girlfriend in a different school, and he had about 3 friends already. So I asked whether the mother was aware of it. It was from there I knew that the child was living with the grandmother and not the biological mother herself. So I had to call the attention of the grandmother upon findings. The grandmother she's a worker too, so she gets up early in the morning, leaves for her job, and only comes back in the evening, when the child must have gone around the quarters, hang out with friends who will teach the child that immoral attitude. So after talking with the grandmother and advising her to make sure that the child should have somebody who is responsible, at least in the house, to attend to him as soon as he comes back from school, follow up to know what he does after school. That is, he has to check whether the child has his homework. He does the work, he put the child to go to rest, he sleeps and rests before the mother comes back, preventing him from going round and round the quarters, because he's being taught a lot of things that he's not supposed to know at his age. The counseling actually transformed the child. Being a school that we're just beginning, I identified this issue of indiscipline being related to security. So the school is well fenced, ensuring that as soon as a child comes in, the child only leaves out of the gate when he's going home. The school is provided with security cameras in all the classrooms. So I really appreciate the effort of the media, Equinoxe in particular, for taking upon themselves to fight for the interests of our fellow Cameroonians, because what you are doing will go a long way to affect
Michael Takie, the CCFGA, has written an open letter to the Director General of Elections, Eric Esuse, talking about the marginalization, or allegations of marginalization of Anglophones in the electoral process. What is this all about?
Thank you again. Yes, we think the Director General of ELECAM is I would say is echoing once more what we already know, the marginalization of the people of former Southern Cameroon. That is what he's doing. There are various ways. Somebody would say, oh, how is that possible? Or how does he do that? Why would you accuse him openly for that? Look at this. The figures always don't hide. Statistics always show exactly what is going on. In 2024, the former Southern Cameroonians, in the former Southern Cameroons, we have 1 million out of 7.3 million people, right, registered. And then that's only less than 14% of the total vote. Imagine this number. And then you have, before the curation of the electoral register, you have we have only 755,000 new voters in total. And then in former Southern Cameroon, you have 64,199, which is about 8.5%. So we are moving from, we are going down and down and down, and yet the Director General and his team are not addressing it. They underlook it. I mean, one of the things that they do usually when there are elections during war or crisis times like this, that is when governments play a fast one on the people. Governments try to be complacent. They give all sorts of excuses, which is exactly what I would say the government of Cameroon or the regime would say. Both the ELECAM and the security section of the country, they are absolutely complacent. They know exactly what they're doing. They don't care about the people of Southern Cameroon. And that is marginalizing them. They ignore them. They just get on with their lives as usual. And if you want to ask them questions like we are saying right now, that Mr. Essos or Dr. Essos should be able to send his team. Instead, it's supposed to be the contrary, because they understand that there are problems in these regions. They are supposed to focus more. They are supposed to spend some time to find out exactly how they will get more electorate or more voters from these areas. But no, they take advantage of the fact that there's insecurity and just ignore what is going on in the former Southern Cameroon. And on the other hand, if you ask them that, why are you not going there? They will say, oh, it's because of insecurity. And then again, sometimes when somebody questions them that, oh, I thought there is no problem within the North and Southwest region, they'll say, oh yeah, we have handled it. They will say there's peace and normalcy in these regions. So how do you I would say, how do you reconcile the two positions? So
now,
what we are saying,
Michael Takie, how is Elections Cameroon responsible for the fact that many people didn't go out to register? How is Elections Cameroon responsible for the insecurity that seems to be preventing many people from going out to register?
The ELECAM is not directly responsible for the security issues. However, I think they are directly responsible for creating the various, I would say, giving the various raw materials that are necessary for voting. CCFGA, I think within last year when the electoral register was opened, CCFGA worked closely with some political parties on the ground in the North and Southwest region. This is a fact. We work with MRC, we work with SDF, we work with PAC, but we hardly saw some actions. When I mean actions, we hardly saw serious actions from ELECAM in these areas. This is not hearsays. We hardly saw all these actions. But under normal circumstances, these are things that ELECAM is supposed to send teams on the ground to go and experience what is going on, to go and find out if there are security issues. Of course, the government works with ELECAM. The government has security agents that are there to protect the people, the police, and if possible, every other, the gendarmes. These are people that are supposed to be looking after the community, not somebody just sitting in proxy and assuming that there is insecurity, or somebody just sitting and not even care, without even, trying to investigate on how they can work in these areas. This is what happens. The Elecam is supposed, Dr. Esos, it is his duty, it's his responsibility to make sure that every single area in Cameroon has all the necessary kits for election for registration. But I'm not sure that is what is going on in the North and Southwest regions. And like I said, nobody is telling me. We work today. That is where we know that this is what is going on. The statistics are to prove what we already know. So we are asking Dr. Esos to make sure that he has some of his staff deployed in these areas. If there are security issues, we have governors and divisional officers who have, I would say, the security command in these areas. If they liaise with them, they will be able to register as many Cameroonians as possible. It is the Elecam's duty to make sure Cameroonians register. CCFGA is working and is ready to work with them. We don't mind working with them to make sure that people in areas of, I would say, conflict, like the North and Southwest regions, have the same fair atmosphere to register for the coming elections. We don't want to be complacent. We don't want excuses. We, CCFGA, is ready to work with Elecam if that is what if they want us or if they need our services.
All right. Before we wrap up, Michael Takie, I want to have your thoughts on the issue of an Anglophone president at this time. There is a school of thought suggesting that after the first president was a Francophone, the second president, who has been in power for more than 4 decades, a Francophone, an Anglophone should take over now. And some think that if an Anglophone were to emerge as president in the forthcoming presidential election, it would do a great deal of good to the country and in the perspective of solving the Anglophone problem. Do you think so?
Thank you. That's a very sensitive question, Jonathan. The answer to that question is that I do not think that is the solution to the problems of that country. What we need in Cameroon are strong institutions. We have the North and Southwest regions, right? They are just 2. How many millions compared to the rest of the country? So if we start saying an Anglophone president, so does that mean they'll be competing against a Francophone president, or how does the Constitution make provisions for that? So already, what we are saying is that you cannot base a presidential candidate based on that. However, if we were to have Cameroonians, the entire nation, understand that an Anglophone has the same capability of being a president as a Francophone, we would make a free and fair judgment based on that. We should not put first or forward the fact that they are coming from, we should vote via Anglophone or through Anglophone or Francophone. It should be based on merit. That is what I am advocating for. And that merit should be extremely fair in such a way that an Anglophone stands the same equal strength as a Francophone, regardless of how many people or how people kind of, I would say, define themselves to vote for them. They should vote for a candidate that is capable of running the country smoothly. And if that candidate happens to be an Anglophone, then I think it will be marvelous. We should not be judging based on whether they are Francophone or Anglophone, because if we do that, we are already, I would say, condemning the Anglophone, because the population of Anglophones is nowhere near the population of Francophones. So let us base this argument on merit. If it is an Anglophone, that will be a double credit, I would say.
Michael Takie, Federalist, chairperson of the Coalition of Cameroon Federalist Groups and Activists, CCFGA. Thank you so much for joining us in this edition of the program from London. Thank you for your time. Thank you for the insights you've shared with us today.
Thank you very much, Mr. Jonathan.
That's it, ladies and gentlemen, for this edition of The Inside. You can follow us on our social media handles on Facebook and YouTube. You can also follow the rebroadcast of the program on Friday at 5 p.m. Thank you so much for your kind attention. Do stay with us if you can. God bless Cameroon.